This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, and welcome into another edition. I'm actually going to edit here on the fly, turning down my sound a little bit because I was a little bit peaky there. But welcome into another podcast, The Draft Room here on MVP. Thank you guys for joining us. If this is your first time or if you're returning, you're coming back, as I am joined with my beautiful co-host. You can't see his beauty yet. I think he wants to do I think what JD's thinking is we'll do a face reveal next season. We'll do it for next football season. As JD, I'm just going to bring you in right away. The draft, we're what, 2 weeks away? 2 weeks away from it?
Yeah, we're 2 weeks. And no, I was actually saving the face reveal for
the draft
night. Yeah.
Well, we'll do that then. On draft night will be JD's face reveal.
There we go.
Because I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, at this point, like, he said he's getting a camera. That's fine. Even if he doesn't, like, we make it work. But I'm like, we're getting pretty close to the draft. We're getting close to that point where you and I, well, you basically, what it's looking like a little bit behind the scenes. I even talked to Dave about this. What it's looking like is draft will happen. You will get to take a break, and then Dave and I will pick up NBA talk and do NBA draft talk all the way through until we pick it up again and kind of start overlapping. But we got a jam-packed show here, JD. Before I get into it, I just want to pitch the Discord. It's a great thing. You should join an MVP Discord down below if you want to talk about anything we're talking about with us and everyone who listens who is in the Discord. Go ahead and join it down below. It is free to do so, and we have conversations about every single sport you can think of. But JD, like I said, jam-packed show for today. We're pretty much, I feel bad because I think we're just talking quarterbacks today, but as you and I were talking about, the quarterback position is there's a lot of conversations with the quarterbacks this year because there's no, so like, a lot of people have CJ Stroud at number 1, Bryce Young at number 2, or vice versa if you're a Bryce Young fan. But like, they're the top 2. That's pretty much the only thing we have solidified. And the first thing I wanted to bring up today was a big thing. It's near and dear, as Stephen A. Smith would say, it's near and dear to my heart. Near and dear to my heart. And that's Will Levis. If you guys are new to the podcast, I love Will Levis. He's going to be the best quarterback from this draft. I can't wait for it. Like I've said in every podcast I think we've had, JD, I can't wait to say I was right, because I will be right, because I know Will Levis will be a great quarterback in the NFL. But JD, we're talking about Will Levis today because there's a certain team that is rumored to be very interested in Will Levis, and that is the Indianapolis Colts. Where I'm getting this from is Bleacher Report had an article where they curated ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, where Jeremy Fowler reported multiple teams believe Will Levis could be a good fit for the Colts with the 4th overall pick. There's also many different Twitter accounts and reporters saying that he's met with the Colts. Colts brass like him, looking like they're going to take a quarterback early on in the draft. JD, I will ask you, are you buying the rumors that Will Levis is the guy for the Colts, either at 2, 3, or if they stay at 4?
See, I'm not really sure I'm buying those rumors with him going forward to the Colts, because I was listening to a podcast, the podcast being Hear That Podcast, Growlin' on The Athletic. And they had Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports on their podcast, and basically they said, or he didn't specify which teams, but he said he heard that Will Levis had 3 interviews, like pre-draft interviews, and bombed all 3 of them. He didn't specify if there was more draft interviews, but he did say he bombed 3 of them. And the reason being, apparently he was super tense in the interviews. He was acting a little weird. Again, his words. But yeah, so I'm not really sure if the Colts were one of those teams that he interviewed with, but it definitely makes you think which teams were those. Was that by him acting weird, did that cause him to fall off their draft boards or at least lower him?
Well,
So
like,
I'm not really sure.
here's the thing I think about because you brought this up to me. Obviously, this is not the first time you and I have talked about this, as we were pre-gaming before the podcast. And the first thing I think about when it comes to tanking interviews, and maybe this is an NBA state of mind for me, is I think about the NBA draft. How many times do we hear in the NBA side, like a dude who, more of the times you see it from a dude who's like going to be a fringe second round pick or a second round pick in general, and there's no way he's going to be a first rounder. He'll just tank his interviews. He'll tank his interviews so no one takes him in the draft. He can go undrafted and then pretty much bet on himself at that point. Like, hey, I could just sign wherever I want. There's a part of me that thinks, okay, the first part is when you say the part of like where he's tanking all, is it really all? Or did he have an interview with the Colts, met with them, they told him, we're going to take you. He said in his mind, oh, that's a really nice situation, because the Colts are a good situation. No matter what anyone else says, I think the Colts are probably the best situation of the quarterback needy teams. They have targets to throw to. They have Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. They have a competent, like, I like Ballard and what he's doing. I think they have a competent front office in place. They have defensive players. Really, the only question mark is, okay, brand new coach this year. That's pretty much all it is. But yet again, we've seen like the Eagles, what? Nick Sirianni comes in, boom, Super Bowl. So, I mean, really, I think they are probably the more favorable situation when it comes to quarterback needy teams, that he's probably sitting there going, hey, I can lead this team to the playoffs, to a Super Bowl, because I'm going to get to that point later. So why wouldn't you go to the other teams and say, hey, let me just tank it so they don't like me, so there's no competition for the Colts? Team to trade up, team to take me. Like, if the Colts have told him, hey, we want you, we're going to take you if you're there at 4, why wouldn't you tank your interviews so that the Colts are the only team that wants you?
So I think with that, like, again, he didn't specify in the podcast which teams it was, but let's say you're right there. I can't see a professional athlete doing that. And again, especially with what we talked about.
But we see it in the NBA all the time. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we see it all the time where draftees tank their stock to bet on themselves. Yeah,
but assuming Will Levis's agent is telling him what all the scouts and, well, at least not all of them, at least some of the scouts and analysts are saying, why risk that? Because let's just say the Colts don't take you, then why, or like, and you are tanking your other interviews, well, then you just kind of screwed yourself out of millions of dollars.
Okay, in this situation, I'm saying if he got a promise from the Colts, if the Colts said, we are going to take you at 4. Like, if he got that promise from the Colts, then I could totally see why he's taking interviews. If he hasn't got that, if the Colts said, well, we really like you, but they haven't given him that, like, you are our guy, then I agree with you. It's stupid. If he got that promise of you are our guy, then I could see the strategy of what he's doing.
Okay, but even with that, I can't see a professional athlete tanking interviews because, okay, unless he grew up a Colts fan, like I wouldn't, if I was the person getting drafted in the NFL, I wouldn't care where I was going at that, because again, why would you cost yourself millions of dollars to even win with that promise?
To win. That's the only thing I can think about, because think about the other situations. The Panthers, you got Frank Reich there. I like Frank Reich. They're far off. The Texans, I like what DeMeco Ryan did as DC of the 49ers. I can't wait to see what he does as head coach. I like DeMeco Ryan. However, I would I would say that the Texans are a little bit of a dumpster fire. They always have been. They need to prove me wrong. You also look at, okay, the Raiders would probably be the next one up, but like they just signed Jimmy Garoppolo. How long am I going to have to sit? That's not an ideal situation for me, to where I just look at all these teams that have quarterbacks, and the Colts are the ones where he could start right away and have the best chance to win right away.
Yeah. Like roster wise, yeah. But I still, even with a rookie quarterback, I mean, that's still a tough task. Like, it's not like it's an automatic playoff berth, right?
No, I'm not saying automatic, but I mean, here's the thing, and this is what I'll bring in. Yet again, different prospect. I'm not saying he's on the level of Trevor Lawrence, even though I really do like Will Levis and think that his potential is on that caliber of like the Trevor Lawrences, the Josh Allens, and the number one quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a guy that I feel like year 2, year 3, they're starting to compete for playoffs with a young quarterback, just like how the Jaguars are with Trevor Lawrence. The main thing with Trevor Lawrence is he didn't have a coach year 1. Once they got rid of Urban Meyer, got in with with Peterson, look at that. Trevor Lawrence is winning playoff games.
Yeah. No, I could see the aspect of winning could maybe pull somebody to do that, but I don't know. I just think it's a bit of a reach for a young guy.
I'll tell you, you know what I feel like right now? And this is a weird situation for me.
What?
I feel like Dave. Because there have been many podcasts, JD, where I have been on your side. I have been on your side of like, if I was coming in, I wouldn't care where I play. And then Dave's playing the side of like, nah, man, get the best situation for you. Bet on you. It's a business. Play it like a business. And like, I think the real question is, do you buy that the Colts have locked in on Will Levis? Because there's also rumors out there that they could be looking at Anthony Richardson as well.
Yeah, see, and that's kind of where I lie. Like, if I was doing my final mock today, I think AR is locked in.
No, JD's locked in on the Florida Gator guy. Shocker.
No, but like, come on, with everything that we that we've read, that you and I both talked about,
JD, I really like Devon Witherspoon. I wonder why.
Oh man, but with Will Levis as well, right? It's just I'm just not sure. Like, he could. I just don't know if the fit is there.
It's the mayo and the coffee thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that threw me off.
I'll be honest. I saw that in the Discord and I tried to defend it. I was like trying to type up a defense, and I'm like, as soon as I saw the chunk of the mayo, I'm like, okay, I can't defend it. No. I can't defend it, even though how much I like him.
And maybe that goes into him being weird in his interviews, because I don't know anybody that does that.
But does that matter? Like, that's like a stupid thing for like, does he put mayo in his coffee? Like, oh, it can't be my quarterback. Like, does he throw the ball well? That's what it should come down to.
But being a quarterback is also just has a lot to do with your mental. And if you can't, if you crumble under the pressure of an interview, with a pre-draft interview, then what are you going to do if you get to the playoffs, or what are you going to do in primetime football? So that's just kind of how I look at that. Like, I think it's some teams would be okay with him not doing great in the interview because they love his natural arm talent. But some teams that will matter. And the other thing is, and I'm not sure, like, I'm pretty sure this is how it works, but couldn't he have just declined the other interviews if that was the case? Why just automatically take it?
That looks worse.
You think?
That looks like
we see it all the time.
That looks like you're scared. And I think that's why I'm starting to think like, okay, that's why I go back to, did he get a promise? Or did he get the like, hey, you're our number one guy? To where he's like, I'll do the interview. I'm not going to take it as seriously because the Colts are my thing. Like, that's the thing. Like, you bring up a good point. He could have just said, nah, I'm not doing interviews, because In the NBA side, the guys that tank interviews and workouts, we also see the side of like, I just won't do them because you're not going to draft me if I don't do it.
Yeah, and I will say this too, like I would be more on your side with the promise if we were closer to draft day. Like if this was like the week before draft night, then I would be okay, it's more likely, but I still feel like we're a little far out for promises to be made unless maybe you're the Panthers.
Well, I mean,
but
I don't know. When it comes to quarterbacks at this point, I feel like the teams that are quarterback needy knew they needed a quarterback for so long that they've been doing work on these guys since before the end of the season. So like I would buy 2 weeks out that you're pretty much like, okay, we've done our work on all of these guys, met with all of them, pro days are done. Like pretty much what else is there to find? If you're trying to find more on a guy at this point, then odds are he's not your guy.
Yeah, or it could just be making sure that he is the right guy.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going between like option A, option B, but like at this point, you should have a narrowed list of like, okay,
yeah, you
boom, boom, boom. Okay, which one are we? Which is number one? Yeah. Which is number two? Which is number three? Because you got to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, E, F, G, H, I. You just got to all the way down because we don't know what could happen in the draft. Trades could happen today, tomorrow, draft day. Who knows?
Yeah, no, you're right.
One thing I was going to bring up, though, and I didn't think about it until now. I read this article. Apparently, Mark Stoops, who's the Kentucky coach, was on Sirius XM radio, and all the articles have the same headline. It's head coach Kentucky Mark Stoops has stern message for Will Levis criticizers. It's not really that serious, but I think it's a good quote. He said, this past year, it is what it is. I know everybody's going to analyze that and look at things and listen. He doesn't need me to make excuses for himself, and he doesn't need to make excuses. There are some plays maybe he was pushing, maybe he was forcing it. Things happen. We weren't as good. I take responsibility for that. We weren't as good around him. We didn't protect him as well. I'm still quite confident in Will's ability, the way he can lead and the way he can play. Somebody is going to be extremely pleased to have him on their roster. I can promise you that. He also goes on to say he has all the intangibles you're looking for to build a franchise around. He has the leadership capabilities. He has an unbelievable work ethic about him. Anything that is a weakness for him right now, he will eventually turn into a strength because that's just how he attacks each and every day. JD, this leads me to the last thing I wanted to talk about with this is I've been saying this the entire time. Whenever someone comes at me about, oh, here's a problem with Will Levis, I got a solution for it. The first one I heard early on was, oh my God, he throws too many interceptions. I was like, all right, the number, it's a big number. Let me look at it. I watched all his film. I said to myself, there were a couple times, the one that is seared into my brain, JD, was against your Florida Gators where he's in the pocket. Guy comes from his blind spot, hits the ball as he's throwing it, goes into another lineman's hand. It's like, okay, that wasn't his fault. There was another one in another game. I can't remember which one exactly. Okay, that one wasn't his fault. The Tennessee game, people like to say, oh, we threw so many interceptions. Well, the thing you got to think about sometimes is when you're getting blown out, you might throw the ball more. Not all interceptions are created equal. So that was point one I heard. Now it's the whole thing of like, he can't lead. He can't read a defense. And it's like, well, how many guys have we known where that was a weakness? They come into the NFL. Yes, coaching is a part of it. That's why I bring up the coaching from the Colts and can they unlock something if they take him, but he can turn it into a strength. He's just got to work on it. That's the thing. And I do think that Will Levis has the work ethic because the thing that I'm seeing a lot of is like when it comes to when I type in Will Levis tanking interviews, a lot of like the titles on YouTube are like this one that I'm looking at from Coltsology, the YouTube channel Coltsology. It says Will Levis tanking interviews, coming off arrogant and entitled ? Here's what I'm thinking with the whole arrogant thing. Like, yeah, I know arrogance is a fine line with a quarterback because you don't want him to be an ass. But JD, I look at that and I go, I kind of want like, if he was my quarterback, I want my quarterback to be confident and a little arrogant on top of it, of like, we're not going to take no bleep and like, we're not going to basically like, I'm confident in what I do. We're going to go out there and win. If there's a little arrogance to that, that doesn't bother me because I want a quarterback who's confident. I don't want a quarterback who's not confident and doesn't believe in himself and the team.
No, I agree with that completely. Because if you have the quarterback that's timid and, you know, they don't either speak up much or they don't have that confidence in themselves, then they're not going to be playing well. That's just how it works. If you're like any sport, if you're not confident in your abilities, you're going to struggle. But you're right. Like, you also got to back it up, right? Like, that was a lot of people's issues with Baker Mayfield. He didn't take responsibility for anything, really. And he always talked a big game. And he would have a big game here and there. And then he would follow it up with an absolute clunker.
Yeah.
So.
And I didn't like Baker Mayfield. I'll be completely honest. Like, I remember, like, the thing with Baker Mayfield, though, that I think is different than Will Levis, and I'm not saying you're comparing them. Will Levis, to me, never had any of the, like, to me, I think of, like, that Kansas game where it's like, that was the one I think, no, it wasn't. The Ohio State game was the flag planting, right? Because he had the flag planting, and then the Kansas game was when he flipped the birds, right?
I believe you got that right.
Was when he flipped off the crowd. So, like, Will Levis doesn't have any of that. To me, I think the arrogance comes from, in interviews that I've seen of Will Levis, he comes off as confident. And if that comes off as arrogant to you, like, I don't know. I just look at it and I go, I want my quarterback to be confident. When it comes to the entitled thing, I'll ask you, before I give my thoughts, do you think Will Levis is entitled? With
No.
you watching him in interviews?
No, I get the whole confidence thing. My only like complaint off the field with him, which again, it doesn't really matter, is he tries way too hard on like social media. He tries to go viral, but
it's a Gen Z thing, though.
Yeah,
like,
so that's really it.
We're gonna get more of that. Like, I was talking to Dave about Luka Doncic, and it's like, well, Luka, we see more of these things that like are more like social media related, because it's like, well, he grew up with social media. Like Will Levis, also now a guy who's grown up with the TikToks, with the Snapchats. I'm saying it like that because I'm leaning into the old man verbiage as I get into my 30s. But I'm going to say something that, JD, I'm debating saying it. There's a reason why. I don't want to sound like ESPN. I will ask you, should I say it or should I not?
Let's go with it.
All right. When I see things like with Will Levis, the entitled, if it's there, like Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen, I could see, okay, they're like, if you say they're entitled, I totally could see the entitlement with those two players.
You're missing one very
Go
important
ahead.
person.
Go ahead.
Johnny Football.
Johnny Manziel. Yes. Those three, if you want to throw them in the entitled bag, go right ahead. Will Levis, I wouldn't. And I feel like, and I'm trying to phrase this right because I'm trying to be politically correct here. This is a line that if you say it wrong, someone's going to get mad regardless, but I don't want to come off like all the talking heads on ESPN because I hate when they do this and I feel like I'm doing the same thing. With Will Levis specifically, I feel like the entitled thing is basically what some other analysts do when it comes to players of, let's say, like Hispanic race or black, or like, I feel like because he's white, people go, oh, arrogant, confident. Oh, he's also entitled. Like they just tag it in there without being like, okay, well, is there any like, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Proof. There it is. Is there any proof? Is there evidence that he's entitled? Johnny Football, Baker Mayfield, even Josh Rosen. I remember with Josh Rosen, the thing I hated was basically how he acted. Like, I remember Brandon and I, JD, talking about, do you remember the hot tub incident or the pool that he brought into the dorm room and they inflated? Like, some people were like, oh, that's just dumb college kid stuff. It's like, yeah, but that kind of stuff is like, he's going to be the leader of my team. And what's his judgment like? Like, quarterbacks in general are judged differently. Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Hendon Hooker, Will Levis, all of them are going to be judged differently than Carter, Anderson, Nolan Smith, Devon Witherspoon, Bijan Robinson, just because they play the quarterback position.
Yeah, I just think with the quarterback position, it's because of how much of a leader that position is supposed to be. So they're held to an even higher standard than the other.
You're the leader of the offense. The offense looks to you. The play comes from the coach to you. You rely it to the team.
Yeah.
When you're in crunch time and your players are nervous, where do the wide receivers look before the ball is snapped? To you. Yep. If you're not confident, the rest of the team's not going to be confident.
Yeah, I just think maybe like, I just think the people that are labeling Will Levis as being entitled, I just think that's just a lazy take. Like,
it totally
they just don't like it. They, like, I'm not a Will Levis guy, but that's just labeling him as something that you don't like because, like I said, I feel I just feel him being like confident in his abilities when he talks, and I mean that's really it.
Now, I do want to pivot here. Quarterback A to quarterback B here. Anthony Richardson. That was the second quarterback we were going to talk about today. There are rumors. I'm going to throw this out because we just talked about the Colts in length. Apparently, this was from April 7th. So today is we're recording this on Friday. That the Colts are scheduled to visit with AR sometime next week. So by the time everyone else is saying, like patrons, as you're looking at this next week, everyone else this week, as you guys are getting this on Monday, this week, the Colts are scheduled to meet with AR. The tweet I'm looking at is from Cameron Wolf. He has two. He said, Anthony Richardson has top 30 visits in April scheduled with Panthers, Colts, Raiders, Falcons, Titans, per sources. Richardson is in Gainesville this week ahead of his Florida Pro Day Thursday, final of top quarterback prospects to make their Pro Day mark. He then quoted that today and said, a look at Anthony Richardson's top 30 pre-draft visits per sources. Starts with Raiders this week. He's there today. Then he visits Panthers on Sunday or Monday, Colts on Tuesday or Wednesday. The week of April 16th, he's scheduled to meet with the Titans, the Falcons, and the Ravens in that order. First thing I want to talk about, JD, what team do you think AR ends up with? If you had to put your money on it.
I already put money on it. I have him go to the Colts.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think, but let's say it's not the Colts and Lamar ends up getting traded or signed somewhere else. I think the Ravens will do whatever they can to trade up for him. Because basically because with AR, I don't want to say he's similar to Lamar, but I feel like he can fit well with that offense, and that offense won't have to change much
Yeah.
to how they normally play with Lamar.
So to me, I'm stuck between two teams, but I'll talk it out. First off, the Panthers, I think, like, I think the Panthers are only in it because Frank Reich likes AR.
Yeah.
I think I would take CJ Stroud over AR. However, however, the only thing I'm thinking about is Panther timeline could meet with AR timeline. If you think he's the best guy, go take your guy. I would just have the opinion, if you took AR, you gave up way too much to move up too high. You could have waited until draft day, traded up to 3, gave up a lot less, still got AR. So that's to me where it's like, I don't think it's the Panthers. The Colts, I am saying no because I think they're going to go with Will Levis. The Falcons and Titans, to me, I think are in the same situation of I'm confused, JD. Mainly because both of these teams have young quarterbacks that I think haven't been given their fair rub yet. Like, I mean, Willis with the Titans, Ritter with the Falcons. I don't think either of these two guys that, like, bringing in an AR creates controversy within your quarterback room. Not saying that competition is a bad thing, but like, what is that? Like, I know they say, like, the old adage, pressure makes diamonds, but would it be wise for the Titans or the Falcons to go after AR after having already young quarterbacks who still need their fair rub and weren't expected to be world beaters in their first year when they eventually got the start?
Yeah, see, and I that's why I don't think either of them will take AR, because I think that they want to give those guys still a chance to succeed. Like, both were both Willis and Ritter were top 3 round picks. So, I mean, I think that the Falcons believe in Ritter still, or at least want to give him a chance to succeed. I mean, I hope so, because I was a big Desmond Ritter guy last year.
Yep.
But I think I just don't know why you would draft them this year, or sorry, draft AR this year after drafting two, like, for the respective teams, 2 quarterbacks in the top 3 rounds. Like, I just think that's not very good value.
I mean, I will say it. I do say that, but the two teams that I think I would put on as favorites to land AR are the Raiders or the Titans. I don't think the Ravens, I think, are doing it in case, like, basically doing their due diligence, like, in case there's a Lamar Jackson trade that comes up, but I don't think Lamar Jackson gets traded. That's just me. I think he'll be either sitting out or playing for the Ravens, whatever he decides. And I don't think the Ravens, they're at 22 in the first. I don't think they're going to want to give up what they will have to give up to move up from 23 to 3. Because now I know what I just said. I think Will Levis is the guy at 4 to the Colts. But I'm not saying that's a lock. That's a Ricky lock. There's a difference. There's a possibility, you're right, that the Colts go with AR. They're meeting with him this week. I think that if the Ravens, the Raiders, the Titans, Falcons, any of these teams that aren't the Panthers or Texans, if they want AR, they're going to have to trade with the Cardinals to jump ahead of the Colts, because I think that obviously if the Colts don't go with Will Levis, AR's the guy there at 4. And with the Ravens, I don't think they're going to want to give up what they have to in order to get the number 3 overall pick. The Raiders would be my favorite just because I know they signed Jimmy Garoppolo, but there's 2 things you got to think about. Perfect world, Jimmy Garoppolo plays. AR gets to sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo. Second option, Jimmy Garoppolo gets injured because he's injury prone. He's going to get injured. That's what Jimmy Garoppolo does. Boom, we have AR. We have the quarterback that we want to be the young guy behind Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I like the fit with Air on the Raiders because, like we've talked about, he can sit and learn until it's his time to start. I do agree. Like, I mean, it is tough though for the Raiders because, like we've talked about before, do you fully believe in Jimmy G to take you to the next level, or do you want to just use this draft pick for the now and not the future?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, who else would you take if you were the Raiders? If you're not taking a quarterback, because like I look at Tankathon and they have a quarterback going to the Raiders at 7. So to me, if you're not trading up for a quarterback, if you're at 7, I'm not taking a quarterback in this draft. I have Jimmy. Like if you're not going to trade up for AR, you're taking something else. Where would you go?
I'd go on defensive side of the ball.
Okay.
I would probably lean corner because like we've talked about, I think in the back 10 of the top 10, I think they're gonna be, or sorry, the back 3 of the top 10. I think that's gonna be a prime spot for a cornerback. So I think you could either go with a Witherspoon.
I mean, you got him. He's right there. Take him.
Yeah, Witherspoon or Gonzalez.
Yeah, I mean, from everything I'm seeing, it's becoming more and more of a reality that Devon Witherspoon will be the first corner off the board. I don't know what you're seeing, JD, but I'm seeing that a lot of teams are liking Devon Witherspoon, and like ESPN sent me an update today that there's a pretty good chance he's the number 1 corner off the board above Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, I just think him and Gonzalez are a coin flip. I think they're both going to be good players. It's just with Witherspoon, I'm pretty sure he's a bit more raw than Gonzalez, but Gonzalez has but Witherspoon has the higher ceiling. So
now, correct me if I'm wrong. When it came to the offensive linemen, it's Paris Johnson who's left tackle only, Peter Saransky who's like the Swiss Army knife.
yeah, Saransky's the Swiss Army knife. He can play I believe it's either tackle position, and he can play guard as well, because I think he's going to be a better guard.
Do you think there's a chance Paris Johnson could play right tackle?
I want to say he's never done it in college. I don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure
he hasn't. But do you think that, because there's some guys where it's like they can only do left tackle, do you think Paris Johnson could be a guy that could make the adjustment to being a right tackle?
Personally, no, but
Okay.
I'm not. But that's also just because I'm not very high on him.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think if I were a team drafting him, I'd just keep him with where he's comfortable, and then build around him and hope that he can be your franchise left tackle. I wouldn't mess with that.
If I'm the Raiders, and in this, we're dealing in this hypothetical that we've created of the Raiders are not trading up for a quarterback. What I am praying for then, if I'm a Raiders fan, if I'm a Raiders owner, GM, everyone in the war room, is I am praying somebody trades up to 3. I am praying that 4 quarterbacks go in the top 4. Because if 4 quarterbacks go in the top 4, that means the next 2 picks after that will be defense. It'll either mean I'm getting Tyree Wilson or Jalen Carter. I'm getting one of those 2 guys, because I know that like when you look, like D line is more of a need than D edge, but I'm sorry, if Tyree Wilson is there, I'm taking BPA and I'm not even thinking about it. But like there's a bigger chance that, I'll just say it. There's a bigger chance that if, let's say, the Seahawks go Will Anderson, which first off would be a steal, you're getting what many think me included, that like if the Bears were the number one pick, Will Anderson. The only reason Will Anderson's not the number one pick is because the Panthers are locked in on a quarterback. The reason why he's not number two is because the Texans are locked in on a quarterback. You're getting a number one overall pick at 5 overall. That is a steal. You won the draft. I don't care what you did the rest of it. But I would say the Lions don't go Jalen Carter. They go edge rusher as well and Tyree Wilson. Jalen Carter to the Raiders could be a good pick. I think there's a possibility that I'm rooting for the trade up so that Carter falls, but let's say Carter doesn't fall and the Cardinals stay as is. JD, I think I'm making that coin flip between Johnson and Soronsky, and if one of those 3 defensive players aren't there, I'm going on the other side. Hey, Jimmy G is susceptible to injury. I need to get him help. We got Jimmy G. Let's get him help so he doesn't get hit, because if he doesn't get hit, odds are he might not get injured.
Yeah, going offensive line isn't a bad idea. Now, what you kind of said about if Jalen Carter fell to the Raiders,
you wouldn't take him.
If I'm the Raiders, no, because not to kick
because you're in Sin City
down.
And you can't trust them to make the right decision.
Well, no, but look at their history with criminals.
that was pre Josh McDaniels.
Ah, man,
you can't blame the sins of my father. You can't blame me for when I wasn't there. That's what Joshy D is saying, or Joshy McD is saying.
I don't know. Vegas just always seems to bring trouble out of people. But
JD, I've been there. It's not that bad. It's a bad rap. It ain't a bad time.
But no, seriously, like going offensive line to protect Jimmy G is, I think, a really good option because, like you said, if you can keep him healthy, chances are the Raiders can be a playoff team. That defense is still shaky, but you can hope that one of the good corners fall to the second round. I believe they're the second round pick.
Yep.
So fall to your second round pick and then build the defense throughout the later parts of the draft.
Last thing I want to bring up, this kind of this is part B of the Anthony Richardson discussion, but I want to close the podcast with it. I'm bringing in a quote here from Jesse Palmer. He was on Steve Smith's Cut to It podcast. Here's what the quote says, JD. There are plenty of teams that have him being AR, third on their list. Right now, those top 2 in Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. Now there's a pretty sizable gap between the top 2 and then Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. Hendon Hooker slides right in there. There are plenty of teams that are like, I like this guy much better than AR or Will Levis. JD, Hendon Hooker, if you're one of those teams that's not going to get Bryce Young, you're not going to get CJ Stroud, are you looking to trade up for AR? Are you looking to get a Will Levis? Or do you kind of go, hey, I can use my pick somewhere else and let me make a trade to get into the first round to steal Hendon Hooker?
If I'm a team that needs a quarterback, I think I just go with either Levis or AR.
Okay.
Just because I think they're both the significantly better option. But again, maybe like you said, maybe that team really needs, I don't know, whatever position that's not a quarterback, they feel like that they need another position as bad as they need a quarterback, and you like that position player better. So you go after them, and then trading back up for Hendon Hooker. I mean, it's a bet, but I like that option better if you're not going to be wasting a first round pick on him, just because, like we've talked about, I think drafting him in the first round I think it's kind of pointless. But
you think drafting Hendon Hooker in the first round is pointless?
Yeah, just because,
Why?
because like I said, for me, I see him as at best a bridge quarterback. because because with his age and how much development is he really going to have? Because it's not like he was the best quarterback in college this year, right?
Yeah, but
So
he was having if he doesn't get injured, we're talking about him higher than a French first.
Yeah,
The
probably.
injury is what kept him out.
Because the injury is what holds me back a little bit. But again, it's like he's going to be 30 in his next contract. So again, how much development is he going to do from age 25 to 30? It's possible he probably will get better, but it's not like I don't think he's going to take a massive leap from college athlete to top 5, top 10 NFL quarterback.
There's one team that I had taking him in my last mock that everyone hated. That I will not be. By the way, I haven't said this. I should have said this from the get-go. I'll say it now. My next mock will be dropping next Thursday for everyone. If you want to see it early, if you want to see it Monday, basically as this podcast is out, if you want to see it right now, go ahead and become a Patreon at our Patreon link down below. You can see my mock draft as you're watching this now. I had the Texans take him, and I thought the Texans were going to be all in on him, but obviously things have changed. Another quote from James Palmer. Did I mess up his name in the other one? Did I say Jesse Palmer? I said Jesse Palmer. I meant James Palmer. Jesse Palmer was the quarterback with the Broncos. Well, am I wrong? Is that who? Wasn't Jesse Palmer one of those Palmer brothers? Yeah, I'm thinking Jesse Palmer. Oh, well, they say bachelorette star. He was not a bachelorette star. He was a football player, my guy.
I thought.
Yeah, he was a Florida quarterback. Yeah, he played for the Giants. He played for the Giants and the Niners. And then the Montreal Alouettes. That's who I'm thinking of. I was thinking of Jesse Palmer. Florida Gator legend, right, JD?
Sure.
James Palmer. Another quote from James Palmer. Sorry, James. This time about the Texans. Says, the Texans have the mindset right now of, let's see who gets picked at 1, and we'll take the other guy. Because both of them check all the boxes. It's really down to the 2 of them, and they're evaluating both of them. That was from earlier this week. So, to me, I've kind of changed. Texans are not the team. But, JD, I'm going to steal your thunder. Instead of asking you, who should be the team to, if there's a trade up for Hendon Hooker, who should be the 1? I'm going to just steal your thunder and go with the team that you told me about as we were talking about it pre-podcast. You told me about the Lions, and I think they're the perfect pick because not only do they have the draft capital to get it done, they have 2 second-round picks, so they can use one of those in a deal to move up and get that 5th-year option. Because one thing I didn't say, I disagree with you on trading up for him, and I think you need to because of the injury. I definitely need that 5th-year option on him. But also the Lions, to me, everything you were talking about like, he's going to be too old. How much better could he get? He screams Dan Campbell. If there's anyone who can get the best out of him, JD, it's Dan Campbell. MCDC.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fit with him at the going to the Lions.
I wonder if Kai's going crazy right now. Kai, let us know.
100%.
Does he not like Hendon Hooker?
I just think he agrees that he's old. And
he's
taking him in the first round
he's
is bold.
Good, my guy. He is a good quarterback.
Yes, but some quarterbacks aren't worth taking in the first round.
Dude, he's already got a sponsorship deal. He's the spokesman for Bush's Beans. Bush's Baked Beans, man. That's your guy.
Oh, man.
He's got that golden retriever energy. Get it? Yeah. Because Bush's Beans also had a golden retriever. I think, right? They were the bean company. Am I thinking of a different bean company?
I don't think we have Bush's Beans here, so that's all you, my guy.
Beans dog commercial. There's a bean company. Yeah, Bush's Baked Beans. They had the one with the dog that talked to the dude, where it was like, hey, but yeah, he's Bush's Baked Beans. Sorry about that. I got interrupted. But yeah, it's Bush's Baked Beans is the thing.
Yeah, I think that's all Yuma guy. I've
You
never
don't
heard
have
of
Bush's Baked Beans in Canada?
I don't think so. I worked in
Really?
a grocery store for a long time, and I
Really?
don't
Well,
think I
you
saw.
you had some weird stuff that you would show
Yeah,
us. What was
smooth
the,
cremu.
yeah, that was it. Smooth Cremu is what I was just gonna ask. What was the one that you used to send us all the time? Um, but now I will ask you, are the Lions that team for you? Are they the ones that where it's basically they're the ones that should trade up, or if there's a trade up, who should?
If there is a trade up, I think if they trade in, again, minimal assets at this point,
Mhm.
but trade up to like the 32nd pick, or I guess 31. Yeah,
So
I guess 31. But
so you say
yeah,
minimal assets. I just want to throw this out here for everybody who's like a draft trade wizard. I don't know about you, JD. What I like to do is I like to look to the past. What in the past got these deals done? And there are two names that bring this to my recollection. The first one's Lamar Jackson. Ravens traded up to 32 with the Eagles. The Eagles gave up the 32nd pick and the 132nd pick. They got the 52, 125, and a future second. The other one, 4 years before that, Teddy Bridgewater. The Vikings traded up with the Seahawks. The Vikings gave up a just second and a fourth straight up for it. So if you're not looking to get an extra pick, I think a 2 and a 4 gets it done.
yeah. Well, for the Lions, like because they have what you said earlier, they have 2 seconds, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
They've got the Vikings, they've got ours, and they've got their own.
yeah. So in that case, I'd be okay giving up a second, and then if you want to do a future fourth, or if you want to do this year's, I'd be okay with that for Hooker.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't love it, but with Hooker, again,
If you want
he's
to
a
give me
prospect.
another team, I could also look up draft picks. 'Cause I have it in front of me.
So then another team that could trade up that, I mean, the Patriots could.
Let's see. Do they give up Mac Jones? Could Mac Jones be in that deal? No, he's not in that deal.
No. No,
Well,
but
I'll ask this then, and I should have probably thrown this out there. Who's the more viable trade back option, Colts or Eagles? Because I don't know about you, JD. I think I'm sorry, not Colts or Eagles, Chiefs or Eagles. I think the Chiefs are a trade up candidate, not a trade back candidate.
yeah, I
They have
think
draft
that,
capital to give up that they don't need, not get more of it.
yeah, I think the Chiefs again, they're in win. Well, of course, they're in win now mode, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think they want to get the best possible player that can make an immediate impact.
I mean,
So,
the Patriots could get it done. They do have their second, and they have their own fourth, the Rams fourth, and a comp fourth from the NFL.
well, so that's my I guess my biggest thing. If you're giving up a second round pick for Hooker,
Mm-hmm.
then I think you need to have an extra second because I still want that second round pick.
Okay.
So that's why I think the Lions, I wouldn't hate that because again,
Mm-hmm.
let's say Hooker isn't the player you want him to be, then I think he's still a guy that you can move on from him pretty
Mm-hmm.
quickly. He's not like a Malik Willis like we were talking about or Desmond Ritter because those guys are a lot younger and they have more to prove.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of how I look at it. With the Patriots though, if you can get away with giving up like a third and then maybe a future second, maybe there we could talk a little bit, but I don't know if
Now
I
I'm
would.
looking at the team, like I'm looking at teams that could be quarterback hungry. One that I look at, I think they're getting Aaron Rodgers, so disregard this, but I'm going to say it anyways. The Jets do have 2 second round picks, and they have a fourth. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't get traded to the Jets, I think he will. I think that deal will get done. They potentially could. Not a lot of teams that I'm looking that like could draft a quarterback have 2 second round picks. Yeah, the
Well,
Ravens don't even
with the
have
Rodgers
theirs.
trade too, I think something that we also gotta remember is
Mm-hmm.
if that trade does happen, I think it's a guarantee that the Jets are going to be giving up the 13th overall pick. So we got to see
Yeah,
what else is involved in that trade.
yeah. because the Packers then would get the 13th overall pick.
Yeah, I think the Jets are going to budge on that.
Yeah, the only ones that I could see are the Lions because they have 2, the Jets if they don't get A-Raj. Like, the other teams I looked at were like, I looked at the Browns because what if Deshaun Watson doesn't pan out? I looked at the Buccaneers because I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, that's where Baker Mayfield went, was Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield ain't no, he's a Band-Aid at best. They're going to draft a quarterback somewhere. I looked at the Cardinals because to me with the Cardinals, I don't care what anyone says. I'm going more towards a rebuild than a push for the playoffs because I feel like they've lost too much for retirement and firings. They're looking to get rid of D-Hop, and I'm not sold on Kyler Murray. We've seen enough of Kyler Murray. I think he's not it. Move on.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I actually meant to bring this up, but Kai reminded me that we forgot to also mention in our last video that Kyler got injured mid-season.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't care. If you're injured, look at what happened to Jimmy G. If you're not out there, you're negative. Here's the thing, and I know that I get some quarterbacks. Oh, you just started a little early, me. I get that some quarterbacks, it's like, oh, they're injured all the time. You can't some quarterbacks get the benefit of the doubt from being injured. Others don't. Kyler Murray, you haven't done enough for me to be like, oh, well, he was injured. Like, because even when you're out there, your team's not going to the playoffs. You're not competing. Like, he gets injured, but also Call of Duty comes out. Like, that's another injury for him.
Yeah, Call of Duty weekend.
And let's be honest, he didn't get injured. He just wanted to play Call of Duty. Let's be honest. I know that's me just being a podcast host and being ranty. I don't need the Kyler supporters to come after me. Let's be honest, though, JD. I've never liked Kyler. We're going to put that out there. Not as a person, as a quarterback, because I was all in on the take Joey Bosa #1 when we did the talks way back when they were getting drafted. I said they should have taken Bosa, shouldn't have taken Kyler.
And they both are injury-prone injury-prone players.
I mean, one's better than the other, though.
Yeah. No, I know.
But, besides that, there's no other teams that have 2 seconds besides the Patriots and the Patriots and, the Patriots don't have 2 seconds. They have 3 fourths.
Yeah, so maybe try to double up on fourths and maybe a third, but
do the Patriots even want Hendon Hooker?
Well, that's what we got.
What do they get for Mac Jones, and where would they even trade him?
See, I don't know who wants Mac Jones because you think I don't like Will Levis? I absolutely hated Mac Jones coming out. I just thought he was super average. So, who wants an average game manager who won't really elevate your team? He's just kind of there, right? Like,
it's almost like we said you shouldn't have drafted Mac Jones.
Exactly, because now that's the thing though. That's a team that if they take Hendon Hooker, I would actually kind of like it. Maybe not high up in the first round, but I already think Hendon Hooker's going to be close.
Let's get this straight. If Hendon Hooker's getting drafted in the first round, it's either at 31 or 32. Ideally 32, very last pick of the first round, just so you can get that option.
Yeah. So, yeah, like if the Patriots trade up or trade back in or trade back or whatever, if they're picking at 31 or 32, and they take Hooker, I actually really like that fit. Bill Belichick can get in Hooker's ear, and then maybe that's what he needs to be better than what I think he can be.
I don't know, though, man. Like, I shouldn't say I don't know, though, man, because, like, the thing I wanted to say was the exact thing I was thinking in my head is, I don't know, man. We said the same thing about Mac Jones. The only problem is Mac Jones is not Hendon Hooker.
No, my comp for Mac Jones was Andy Dalton.
No, not even a comp. I was just saying, like, that was the thing when Mac Jones got drafted. It was like, I don't know, man. Maybe Bill Belichick can, like, unleash the beast. But, like, Hendon Hooker's a completely different quarterback. Yeah. So, like, we can't even say that same thing with it being a negative. I don't know what they get. Like, I'm even looking at an article from CBS. The 5 ideal landing spots they have for Mac Jones. Rapid fire. You tell me if you like or don't like. Number 5, Denver Broncos.
Don't.
Number 4, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I like that.
Number 3, Washington Commanders.
No.
Number 2, Tennessee Titans.
No.
Number 1, Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Only because you want the Raiders to be bad? Is that why?
No, just because I
have to see where the biases come from. Like, which teams does JD want to be good and bad?
No, see, my thing, like, I don't mind the Raiders. I just hate their fan base. Okay. Or I shouldn't say hate, because I hate a lot of fan bases.
All Raider fans watching right now are like, click. As I did a remote. I'm so old.
I shouldn't say hate. I just not a big fan of their fan base.
I did a remote for click. Gen Z doesn't even know what a remote is.
When it comes to the draft, like, even with the Steelers, who I genuinely don't like, I don't want them to draft bad players. Like, I won't be like, oh, I hope they draft this guy because he's bad. Yeah. No, like, but with Hooker to the Raiders, like, I actually don't mind that because Jimmy G can get in his ear. And, I mean, I think Hooker's a guy you want to play now. You don't want to play him as a 26-year-old rookie. So, but I think maybe assuming Jimmy G gets hurt, then Hooker can step in and start his hopeful development right away. But actually, I don't know. Is Hooker going to be missing any time to start the year?
I have no idea. I don't like. It depends on how his injury is coming. I know when he was on McAfee, all we heard was it's progressing. Like, that's all we heard. Let's see. Yeah, Google doesn't even have much of anything. Apparently, the last thing from today, 12 hours ago, he is ahead of schedule in recovery. What that exactly means, let's see.
It can mean anything.
So on the Paul Feinbaum show, he said, I'm still in the recovery stages of the injury and working day to day in the training room and weight room. I'm still on the field developing my mental as well. So whenever I can watch film and get on the board, which is constantly every day, I am having a great time doing it. I'm just enjoying the process. I am ahead of schedule and I will work day to day to get better.
Yeah, the one thing he has going for him is he seems like a great guy, and
he also went on to say, it's a blessing to be talked about in the draft. It's something I have been striving my whole life to be in the draft and be acknowledged for my play, character, and football IQ as well. I see the draft talk. It is inevitable. I am sitting around at lunch and ESPN is on the TV screen and I can see myself on there. It is a huge blessing. I just continue to work and put in time and effort to my craft and what I love to do on a daily basis, and that's to learn to be a better person and a better player every day.
Yeah, like, I'm rooting for him. Like, guy seems like he's a gem, but like what I was saying earlier, I just don't know how he will turn out to be in the NFL, like, long term.
I'll say this about Hendon Hooker, and it'll be the last thing I have to say, JD. Someone's going to trade up for him. It's just who? Who's the one? Somebody will trade up for him, though, either at 31 or 32.
Yeah, I could see someone trading up for him, just not in the first round, personally. I see him trade up for him the second round.
Well, they're not going to trade up for him. And, like, why would you trade up for him and not get, like, that's the big thing in my mind. Get the option then.
Because the contract, like, the value is different.
Yeah, but you still get the option, so you have him under control and don't have to worry about. Because the big problem is if you don't get that option, then you're going to have to worry about the age, how he's progressing, and if let's say he's really good for you. Let's say he's a star. Then you have to be like, crap, we should have got that option because now we got to pay him. We got to pay him a year sooner. Like, yet again, I'm thinking of that business-wise, though, not Like, I know there's a lot of other stuff that goes into that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He's the one player I'm actually really looking forward to see where he goes, just because I'm curious if you're going to be right about him going in the first, or
Hey, things like this happen.
yeah.
Ricky gets the this will happen, and I will stay on it until it doesn't, or until it does. Like, I'll just assume it to the Bulls. Any final thoughts, JD, before we wrap this pony up? I don't know why I called it a pony. Just don't like saying pony.
No, I just with kind of going back to like all the quarterbacks, I just think that we're gonna find more out closer to draft night. Like, we're gonna actually start to paint a clearer picture. Right now, I still feel like it's a little bit of a crapshoot.
Yeah.
And who knows? Like, maybe we'll get some late. I feel like maybe it's a little too late, but maybe we'll get some later buzz of like a McKee moving up draft boards, maybe sneaking into the early second, and
So before we end the podcast, I just want to do a little housekeeping update thing. Get your calendars out, people. So if you're on Patreon, you're seeing this pretty much night of recording, as we're recording this on Friday. If you're seeing this live, it's Monday. Here's how the rest of our schedule is going to go until the draft. If you are seeing this on Monday and you are not a patron, my mock draft is live on our Patreon page right now. If you become a Plus member, you can see that right now. If not, it'll come out Thursday. As you are watching this Monday, it'll come out the 13th. Our next episode, JD, is going to come out on Patreon on the 21st, live to everyone on the 24th, the Monday of draft week. I will also have my last mock draft either on that 24th or the 25 at the latest. I'm thinking it's going to be more the 24th, because there's a possibility I do a spur of the moment one on Wednesday in case anything happens from Monday to Wednesday. So mock draft, you can see it now if you go to Patreon and become a patron plus member. Otherwise, it'll be up Thursday the 13th. Our next podcast will be on Patreon on the 21st. Yet again, plus member to see that. 24th for everybody else. 26th or 24th will also be my fourth mock draft. 26th could be a fifth one if I decide to do it. But on the 27th, draft day, JD and I, at the least, maybe more, you got to come and check it out, will be streaming live on the YouTube page while we watch the draft, giving our reactions like we do every single year. That's our calendar moving forward, JD. It is that in a nutshell. I cannot wait to see what happens between now and the draft as we're getting closer and closer. I want to thank you guys for everything you do, liking, subscribing, all that stuff. Let us know down below, obviously, what you thought about what we're talking about, but also if there's something you want us to hit in that final episode before the draft, let us know. We'll pick some comments. Let us know what you want us to talk about. If we feel like anything sparks up, we will definitely add it to the show. I want to thank everybody for checking us out today. And as always, have a good day, everybody. As always, we'd like to thank the people who make these videos possible, our patrons whose names are displayed on the screen right now. If you would like to support the channel and become a patron, click that Patreon icon in the bottom right. And if you want to check out another episode of The Draft Room, click the icon in the upper left. Again, thanks for watching.